Good afternoon, people. Okay, I guess I owe you people an explanation. I'm a guy that's almost 60. 59 to be precise. I just turned 59 this November, for anyone that might not know. And as being a 59-year-old man, I've got a 59-year-old man with dyslexia. I've got learning disabilities. I also have cerebral palsy. Let me just give you a little bit of a brief interlude to what potentially could happen with this if you were me or someone like me. I've been fairly lucky in my life, and people will say, well, what do you mean by fairly lucky? How could you say having cerebral palsy on those problems is lucky? Well, let me just tell you this. I know of people that have cerebral palsy, not personally, but I know people who've got other things like muscular dystrophy and that, who have had to suffer much more than I have in my life. At least I've had a relatively long life. I wasn't always enrolled in professional sports like I would have liked to, like a lot of my friends were. I didn't get to do a lot of the things in terms of activities that my friends did because of my abilities, and sometimes it was harder for me to do things. But at least I could still walk and talk and do most of the things that most ordinary people could do. So that was a blessing, I thought. Well, unfortunately, as you get older, become less active and become less ability to be active and less than active, especially when other things like rheumatoid arthritis and onset back pain and all that come in. You start becoming less and less active. And unfortunately, our lifestyle, given the way we live, not being very active is actually a death wish. For a couple reasons. One, we tend to eat a lot of comfort food, which I'm guilty as charged. I'm attempting to do a little bit better by thin down lemonade, the lemon punch I got in the cider, which you probably can't see in the camera view. But it's here. Other things, trying to exercise whenever I can. Like, my most of my exercises can go in terms of shopping in grocery stores. Well, unfortunately, sometimes I don't actually walk very much. I have a assistant cart because it is very hard for me to stand up. So, of course, I tend to go to that a little bit, which is probably not a good thing for at times when I don't have that ability, I walk around and attempt to go through the store as quickly as possible because it is difficult for me to do. Probably because of this, the reason sort of caused the diabetes is simply just the fact that when you sit there and eat comfort food and eat a lot of very bad food, most of the food you eat is food that's very simple and easy to produce. You don't want to put a lot of effort standing in the kitchen making. You don't want to spend a lot of time. You're home, you're hungry now. So we go to the food that most of us go to, the chips, the pop, cookies, fast food, etc. Anything that can be done very quickly where we don't have to put very much effort. Unfortunately, by not putting much effort, we tend to not do much activity. We tend to eat a lot more because our stomach doesn't know when to stop. Our brain doesn't know when to stop because the food makes us feel good. It's like drugs. Food is a drug. It's the first fundamental drug we need in life. We need to eat food. So, of course, as you get older and become more sedentary, they become a little bigger, like me. I got rocking my Loonies shirt. It will be able to start Promise, along with other designs I've been putting together. I've been putting off all of this for a very long time. And I know that since I'm a one-man show, it ends up being I'm the only one that gets to do anything, so I have to be the one that gets up my fat ass, in this case, or fat butt, and start doing stuff, because ultimately you are out there and you're probably saying, hey, where's all the merch you've been promised me? Where's you got the website? It looks like it look okay. Probably could use a little work. Yes, I agree. And where's the merch? You got a store with nothing in. Well, that's where I have to start getting off my fat belly here and start covering merch. Anyway, besides that, like I said, I got diabetes. And this is a result of basically being sedentary. Your body builds up too much sugar. It doesn't know what to do with it. We have an abundance in food in North America. This is one of the problems in North America a lot of us have. You see a lot of countries in the world where people don't have diabetes. Why don't have diabetes? Because in order to have diabetes, you have to have an excess of food in your system that's not being consumed by your body to live. Well, unfortunately, since most human beings, the humans in general, are built what's called a fight or flight response, we tend to eat a lot when it's, or what I call the feast and famine thing. We tend to eat a lot or feast when abundance of food is there, because for most part of our history, food has not been always available. We didn't have refrigeration. Ideas like preserving food is fairly new in terms of the modern version of it. We've been attempting to do this for many centuries. Several groups of the people, natives and that, have found their methods using spices and stuff like that, putting things underground, etc., etc. Trying to extend like the food through seasons where if you're in areas of the world where they don't have sun and that to grow things 24/7 or 24 or 365 days a year, You compensate for that by making up food that you can store over a large period of time over the wintertime months that we have in this part of the country. And we eat that over time until the spring comes when we can start new and plant new plants and bask in the natural bounty of nature. Many of us during this time of year tend to eat a lot of meat because the only protein that's available at this time when most things are dead is animal protein. Now, for those very few people out there who decide to subscribe to the vegetarian lifestyle, all the best to you. I have nothing against necessarily you being vegetarian. But the problem is, where my problem comes in is when you turn around and tell me that I should be a human, horrible person on the planet for eating animals, especially animals that I don't particularly catch. Well, guess what? Most of North America don't actually go out and capture their own meat. It's just as simple as that. Way too much work. We've automatically designated to people that do this for a living. Mind you, this has become a highly mechanized and very commercialized industry over time as industrializations come in, and the fact that the gentleman farmer that used to connect and feed and buy it from the farmer, that is very much gone for most of the culture in North America as we've gone to these commercial supermarkets and let the whole process of food consumption and production industrialize, which also leads to the side effect of much of the what I call junk food being produced, not just the people in the fast food restaurants, but in things that you go and purchase in a store that you can just purchase in a package that's been pre-made, pre-processed in a factory thousands of miles away for us to consume. Now, the thing is, there's nothing wrong with the occasional bit of this very, very toxic food. Most of us enjoy it plentifully, even things like baked goods. But it's the problem that we tend to eat it too much, too often, and then we couple the worst there of doing that with not doing exercise, which leads to this and diabetes. Hence why we have diabetes. And the reason, like I said, we have diabetes here and other countries don't, because there's other countries in the world that don't have access to food as much as we do. They don't have abundance of food to the point that they have to, that they can gorge and not stop. Usually they'll gorge and they realize that they're gorging because at some point in time they're going to be a famine point where their bodies are not going to have food and they're going to go hungry for a long period of time. So their bodies have human beings, and all animals are adapted to the idea that you eat when the times when foods are plentiful, and you learn to conserve that energy over a long period of time when food is not plentiful to the point when it becomes plentiful again. And this is what happens in nature. But unfortunately, us humans in Western culture especially tend to just forget that there is no famines. There's never a famine. There's always a feast. And that means we have to jump in, intercede, and decide how. And this is why we, in the modern history of society, we had to create all these things like diets and dietary plans that weren't necessary in early history. Dietary plans just didn't exist. You just ate what you want to because it was there, and then it wouldn't be there. I mean, you ate when it was there or not. But with the world of international trade and travel, that things come from all around the world, all times of year, you can get foods that, first of all, they're not usually available in most territories before transportation and industrialization, and are also available all year round. Things like orange juice, for example, which is a new thing that's come into the zeitgeist of the modern diet, which is like all juice. This is actually very bad for you. It's like drinking a bottle of pop. Even though there is vitamins in it, sure, but the problem is you're taking out the fiber. You're bypassing the thing that makes it good, the fiber, which is what makes you slow down the rate of absorption of the sugar, helps to clean your system because fiber is very good for you. Many of us should be eating more whole fruits and vegetables if we're going to eat vegetables all, as opposed to making that smoothie, especially if it doesn't have any pulp in it. You're taking away the one thing that makes it more palatable and controls the amount of sugar we consume. Anyway, I'm not going to rant about that. That's part of why I'm here. The fact is that it's winter time, and like many of us during the winter time, we tend to end up getting very sedentary without the lack of sun and lower levels of vitamin D. And no matter how much vitamin D you take, your body works the same way. What happens to me and what happens to probably all of us when we get older is we eat, and unfortunately, since our bodies require so much energy to process food, we tend to fall asleep, especially when we're in a very comfortable place. And then wake up hours later and wonder what the hell's happened to my life. That's what's happened to me over the last couple months. Now, I do have a video I did film at New Year's that I was going to post, which never got around to posting, by the way, so I apologize for that, which I need to post for all of you out there to let you know that I was alive. I was actually thinking about all you guys. It wasn't just the summertime when I was going out and enjoying myself outdoors, which was a great experience, by the way. I highly recommend it to anyone. If you can find a place somewhere where you can just get away from nature, get away from the big city just for a little while, where you can just enjoy life again, especially if you have friends and family to do it with, I highly recommend it. It is very therapeutic. It did more for me in that time than anything else you'd ever know. I would love to have something like a bike or some other activities to do there to entertain myself. Maybe had like a badminton court or tennis or some other sport that we could have played together. So we had activities so we could become physical active and enjoy the bounty of nature in this country that's so bountiful with nature. But enough kidding about that side about that. Enough talking about that. Okay, let's just talk about something more important. I have been looking at the way the world's been going lately, and it's pretty scary. But then again, what isn't scary? We're living in Canada, the country that's run by idiots. And the problem is, some people might say that it doesn't matter which idiot you put in, you're going to get more or less the same type of shit. Well, to a certain degree, they're right. I hate to say it. To a certain degree, I have to agree. The fact is, to a certain degree, there's always going to be somebody that gets into power that has a certain agenda that other people are not going to agree with. What's the problem with democracy? Democracy is, the fact is, the largest group of people who promote their version of their idea, who is exposed to their ideology, who is attempting to do what is right for him and the people he cares about, but they forget the fact is the people that didn't vote for them, they still have to represent them too. They still have to keep their interests in mind as well. And that goes on both sides of the political spectrum, left or right. But the problem is, you can't appeal to the most extreme on either side because there's not as many people there. There's not as many right-wing extremists, and there's not many left-wing extremes. It's the people that are mostly counted around the center, either a little bit left or a little bit right. Those are the people. That's the majority of us. The majority of us sit in the center because we're pragmatic. Recognize the fact that we can't be totally left, we can't be totally right. We can't always get in the center. Sometimes we make meaning in the center, but we usually most of us either hang a little bit to the left and a little bit to the right. And the fact is that makes us least able to recognize and understand each other and make communication with each other and form common dialogue. So I'm hoping that ultimately, I know the government's going to change. It's going to change in everybody. The fact that the true liberals are attempting to make it last longer than it should, carrying it out more and more. The problem is it's just a very hard thing to do because they can't sit in their own little nationalist bubble. The world doesn't work that way. The world's an international force. And when you've got a nation like the Americans, the largest nation in the world in terms of population, in terms of democratic industrialized world, with any president, whether it be Biden or Kamala Harris, heaven forbid, or Donald Trump, as some people absolutely hate, loathe the passion. I'm going to tell you a little secret. I don't like Donald Trump either for a lot of reasons. I think he's not a very good person representing people non-religious. Ultimately, he's very religious. He's appealing to his base. He has to appeal to the base of the people that are attracted to his type of politics. But unfortunately, there's a lot of things he is doing and observation he is making that are very, very practical and actually make sense. The world works this way. People represent and respond to strength. Weakness of any sort, vulnerability of any sort, anyone that tells you that you have to be nice to everybody will get along and everything will be okay is disturbed and very, very delusional. Donald Trump is brash, bold, bombastic, a little bit sarcastic. Some people can consider him mean. Some people consider him unpassionate and dispassionate. And if you're an extreme leftist or extreme rightist, there's going to be things he's going to do that are going to piss you off, just like anybody does. He has to appeal to the largest group of people and the people in his base. And the people in his base want a couple things. They want to have a strong nation. They want to promote what's called the nation state. Many people out there don't like the idea of the nation state. They want to make a more global economy. They believe the world eventually will become a global force, and I believe it will eventually too, but we're not ready for that yet. We're still a collection of tribes. And most of these tribes tend to form into things called nations, which form what's called a nation state. And all these nation states have a collective purpose of protecting the needs and the wants and desires and the people of that nation state against all comers from every other nation state. But, unfortunately, people still have to get along with their neighbors, whether it be the next door neighbors in your neighborhood or next door neighbors in the next country over. Donald Trump's strategy is simple. The fact is, he knows that Canada and its leaders, with its very left-leaning, globalist-type leaders, have been very lax on a lot of the things that nationalists hate. The one thing is immigration and borders. Nationalists perturb borders because good borders, the old saying is good fences make good neighbors. It's true. Good fences do make good neighbors. But the thing is that if you've got a good neighbor, sometimes it's over to say to go on to the other side of the fence and say, can I borrow a cup of sugar? Well, in this case, can I borrow a missile defense system, or can you take care of my country from being invaded because I know you've got some tools in your backyard, that you got a couple of jets in your backyard that I don't have. Can I just borrow them a little while? I'll give you something back. I'll return them and I'll find them. I'm sure there's something you'll need from me that I can come on and give to you. We're good neighbors, aren't we? Aren't we? But in a globalist world, they don't respect neighborhoods. The world is one big neighborhood. And the globalist dream is to turn every country into a small global neighborhood run by a few select elite people, telling the rest of us how to live because they know better. That's called communism. That's called dictatorship. That's called socialism under some colonies. And I got some bad news for you. Human beings do not like to be told what to do. Even in a democracy, they don't. But in any event, especially in our state of authoritarianism, when you have to use force and the threats of force and punishments and all these disincentives to get people to behave in the way that you think they should behave, be prepared for a backlash, especially if you're people in power and don't live by the same laws, rules, and restrictions that you're imposing on the rest of the society. This is the flaw that every dictatorship has. It puts itself in a state that eventually what it does is says, I'm in power, I'm entitled to something because I'm in power. So what do I get? I'll give myself a bigger house. What the fuck? I'm the one taking on the responsibility of work. I still want to be rewarded for my work of being the babysitter to the nation. I need a bigger house. I need more food. And eventually it gets to the point where it says, please don't need trouble, but I need trouble because I'm so damn important. Yes, my importance means I have to fly. Well, I got some bad news there. Technology has made that argument completely and utterly fucking mute. It's a moot, not mute. No, it is mute too as well, but that's another story. Technology, telework, internet transport, and doing things over the net, remote communications, and other means has made all these mechanisms an excuse for having near travel because of the mass distance between countries completely and utterly unnecessary. And it's also solved another problem. When you travel between countries, especially if you travel over time zones, what happens is by a time zone thing, you have to compensate for the fact that you have to adjust to the time zone of the place that you're going to. So what happens is you lose all this time in the meantime. When you go there, it takes over 5 hours to get there. And then, of course, you get there, your body has to get acclimatized to this new time zone so that you can effectively work and function amongst these people when you actually physically meet. Now, obviously, being physically there, you can do things that you obviously can't, like pass them things, shake their hands, hug. There's a lot of physical, us being social creatures, that is also a very necessary thing. And I think we do have to keep situations where we meet with people and interact with them on a physical basis. I think that's very important. So I'm not saying the travel is totally unnecessary, but for the most part, many of the times there's meetings are done that don't require that type of interaction. I just need a small conversation for a few minutes. And how to spend an hour conversation with somebody where you have to spend thousands of hours and thousands of miles of airstyle and hours prepare and that just to go and talk to someone for 5 or 10 minutes or 30 minutes or half an hour or an hour is completely under with the technology is unnecessary. It's only done because of your ego. You use it to justify your want to travel to places on the company dime. Well, you know what? That's called vacations. And most of us don't get to do those things unless they pay out of our own pockets for them. Why should I pay you as a person representing me to go on, quote, vacation, what they call a working vacation? And when the work you could do could be done very quickly by sitting at a desk, doing exactly what I'm doing right now, talking to a screen. And then you can go back to work. And then occasionally when you finally do meet, maybe you can combine the meeting into a group meeting where you can meet a lot of people once and get a lot of work done and can justify meeting in one location for a period of time. And of course, human beings are going to want to take a relaxed part for being there, and I don't begrudge you that necessarily because we already sent you there. We're going to pay you to send you. We're going to pay you to send you back. If you want to stay on a vacation, I think you should pay for your own vacation. If you're not working during that, if you take 3 days off during the time you're going to be in a place, and you're staying at a hotel for 3 days, which is not there for government business or the business administrating government, I think you should have to pay for it yourself. I think you should also have to pay for your family being shipped there for the whole entire vacation, because the fact is they're not doing any work, are they? A single person that goes on vacation or goes on a working vacation doesn't cost the state as much money as a man with a family goes on vacation, because while what happens, the state ends up having to pay for the wife, the kids, and everything, the dog, and that, to all these things, move them around, hotels, transportation, that, all to send you to a place when we can just send you there all your own. If it's actually for work, you do not. It's not a vacation. You can go there for work, and you do not need to have your family. Many people have families where the family members go away for several days, months, sometimes years, to places to do a work assignment, and then come back to their families, and then communicate with their families on the brief using technology, which is such a great thing. Keeps families close, even though you don't physically get close. You still get to spend time and talk to each other and communicate and have community so that you can make up for being away. So if we can do it, the average person can do it, why can't you? So, as I said, okay, right now we got a situation in Canada where we got a government which is prorogued. Now, the prorogation process has been done several times before. It's not the first time, and it won't be the last time that government, successive federal governments, will prorogue themselves for various reasons. But in this case, the reason the prorogation happened was literally kind of a simple one and a very, very, very mysterious and deceiving one. Prime Minister Trudeau obviously realized his shelf life was cooked a long time ago. He just was willing to leave. He thought he could hang on. His party basically told him on uncertain terms that if you stay on, you will bake this party so bad that we will be baked out of existence again and we'll have to start over again. And the only way we have a chance, a snowball's chance, of ever forming government again, given the fact of how unpopular we are, is to do something really drastic by getting rid of you. The problem is not the party, at least they think. It's you. It's you they don't like. They figure that majority of people like Liberals' policy have no problem with the policy. It's the fact that the people that are electorate, including the people on the opposite side, don't like you. Well, I got some bad news for the Trudeau Liberals. It's not just Trudeau they don't like. Majority of people don't like the direction these oligarchs and globalists are going. The old authoritarian thing of telling us how horrible us living the way they are is. Meanwhile, they drive around in their Bentleys and fly around in jets all around the world, telling us how bad we are, making these conferences, planning the future of the world behind closed doors, and then coming back and pretending that they're working for us, and then they go back on the guilt trip is telling us how bad things are. Well, I got some bad news for you now. The fact is, we know human beings and the actual humans affect this planet. Technology affects this planet. Our need to consume goods to some degree without the sort of thought of what happens to things afterwards. And, of course, everything is motivated by monetary costs. I mean, we say, okay, you keep talking about people saying, oh, we got to put money into climate change to make sure the world's taken care of, because ultimately people won't save up for managing CO2. Well, I got no problem. Some bad news again. CO2 is not our problem. CO2 is a natural form of living life. It's not the fact of CO2. It's how we manage and deal with that particular problem. Putting up solar farms to solve cars vehicles and putting us gasoline, and putting solar and wind farms and all this stuff, which unreliable technology, and also very costly, to the environment in terms of manufacturing these things. Most people don't understand where these things are made. Most of the stuff is made in China, where a lot of the industrial pollution is produced because of the cost and effort and all the minerals that they find all around the world, especially, to make these things that don't last for a very short period of time. Nature knows how to take care of itself. In spite of us being very irresponsible beings and not being very good stewards of it, nature takes care of itself. If we allow nature to take care of itself, like, for example, I'll give you an example of how nature took care of itself very, very easily, a very simple one. People talk about Chernobyl. The Chernobyl disaster, how bad it was, and oh my, people lived there for years and years. They went back recently to Chernobyl with meters and tests and that, and they found that Chernobyl was actually a very lively place. lively in attack that nature has taken back what humans have claimed from it. Nature works. You let nature do its job, nature will do its job. Nature's been around much longer than any human civilization's been around. None of us live long as nature. Nature is eternal. We're finite, at best. We're finite, trying to push towards infinity. But none of us individually will reach it. Our progeny will, but we won't. But nature is eternal. Nature will be here as long until the planet is gone, until the universe is gone. Nature will always be here. Nature always takes care of things. So instead of just letting nature do its thing and worry about what we can control and put that money elsewhere, instead of spending all this money building these useless projects like solar farms and wind farms and taking away all the territory from nature that animals need and the rest of the things need to grow food, all the things we can do that are positive. Planting trees, maybe. You want to put effort into plant more trees. Learn to manage our forests. Our forests and nature are our best allies. Preserving nature. If you want to put money into something in terms of saving this planet, preserve nature. Find ways to use less, do more with less, to be better stewards of our environment. Try to find a way to make capitalism work within the confines of the fact that we have a finite amount of resources. And that resource stewardship and management should be part of the plan. Just throwing things to the dump. If we had if we spent our money in managing a more effective way of dealing with our waste products of our society, of our capitalist, very wasteful society, and also finding better ways to package things to generate less waste, you screw off. Messages are just popping. I'm going to just turn this thing to silent. Sorry about that, folks. I should turn this thing to silent from the very beginning. It's that's another thing. Modern technology. Modern technology has become very, very popular, and so it's made our lives extremely bountiful and very extremely plentiful. But unfortunately, modern technology sometimes becomes an interference. Human beings, over the time of industrial revolution to our capitalist society, and this society which is driven by selling more and more and more and more, and money and the accumulation of stuff. That's what capitalism is. But the side effect of that particular thing is eventually, if you run into customers, if you sell everyone something and you make it too good, where people don't need another one, then you have nobody making it, because eventually what you hit is what's called the saturation point. Now, there's only two ways to avoid the saturation point for a long period of time. Either A, focus on a niche amount of customers where you know there's only going to be so much you're going to make, and eventually those people will get bored and they'll eventually want a new one. Or if you sell to the masses, and the problem when you sell to the masses, you have to make the things you make affordable. Now, there's two ways of making it affordable. You can make it lesser quality, which requires them to purchase it more often, which is like what most people buy when they go to the dollar store. Most of the stuff you buy at the store is not made to last. Sorry. I don't buy things at the dollar store to last. I honestly know anything I'm buying that's not a community thing, that's utilitarian, like paper, for example. I don't expect paper less, so that's why I don't pay a lot for it. It has a function. It goes away very quickly. If I want something that really, really is important, I'll put it on better quality paper. I'll invest more money into it. If it's just a general everyday scratch pad thing, I'm obviously not going to pay a lot of money, or for a big pen. This is why I buy things at dollar stores and that. But anything that's meant to actually last any length of time, I'd rather spend extra money on and buy better quality, so I don't have to spend. But the only side effect by buying things of better quality is it precludes someone making them. But then there's the other problem. The majority of people that make the low-quality products that we buy in society are the lowest people on the totem pole. They're already making very little money. So they have to work longer at the jobs they do, because they have to work longer to make these products so that they can have a salary. Because the good thing about that from their point of view is, since the products are very low quality, they tend to not last as long. So you're paying little money for the materials input. The inputs are very low in terms of the quality of materials. The inputs, the cost of labor, are very low. You found ways to get around cost of shipping to make the shipping very low, so you can sell it for very low. But then right off the bat, the expectation of its longevity and lasting in terms of being able to, for utility use over long term, are unlikely down the toilet. To complete, that's it. Forget about it. If we're a focused society on high value goods, paying people very decent wages, using good quality materials, still generating the same amount of profits for the people that are doing this, but in making things last longer so we generate less waste, and we create less materials, we have less mining and all that, but pay people more to do less, then people would still have the same standard of living. Companies would still make money. You'd be using less, you'd be less products, you'd be less waste, and everything would be better in the long run. But the problem is capitalism doesn't work that way. Capitalism worked on over the consumption, generating as much consumption as possible because you want to build more and more and more. But that comes to the very theory of, like I said, how much does any one human need in terms of money? Because obviously money is the motivating force for most people in society to live, because everything is purchased in money. We translate our labor, most of us, into this thing called money to use to buy things to live, to subsist, or to grow, or to thrive, or whatever. But the question is, how much money does it take to be happy? Now, for most of us barely have enough money to be happy most times. Most of us have enough barely long to live. There's only very few of us that ever get to have to ask this question themselves: how much money does it take to be happy? When does happiness come? What's the magic happiness number? Well, for people like Donald Trump, might say billions of dollars. But is Donald Trump necessarily happy because he's got billions of dollars? Does he get the chance to enjoy all the things he has all the time? No. They're like play toys. Think about a rich person that gets a lot of things as buying a lot. It's just basically a grown-up kid buying very expensive toys. The fact is, realistically, how often does that person get to use those toys? Now, of course, the other thing they get to do once they own the toys is they don't have to worry about sharing with anybody. But that's also kind of a silly thing, because most of the enjoyment that I had with many of my toys in the end as I grew up was the sharing with people. Sharing the experience, instead of being isolated and singular, sharing the experience with other people. So, let's say you're on a tennis court. Ultimately, I would love to have it, that tennis court. Why would I want to own a tennis court, a private tennis court where I can play anytime I want to? That'd be nice when I've got no one else to play with. I'd rather have a situation where I have a tennis court that, even though I may have to book it and schedule my life around it sometimes because it's not available all the time because other people are using it because it's more utilitarian, where let's say I can say, oh, well, you want to use the tennis court? Why if I share it with you? I'll let you use my tennis court. I'll be your opponent, and at least we have something to do. I get to have an opponent. You get to use my tennis court. I'm the one providing it for you. You obviously can't afford it. Don't have to pay me anything for it because it's the pleasure of me to share my toys, in this case my court, with you, because it gives me enjoyment just as much as it gives others. What if we had a society more like that, where we had people, instead of building these exclusive places for themselves as enterprises to make wealth, where they got already enough money to begin with, but make a public, let's say like a Donald Trump would make public tennis courts or public facilities or public golf courts or public something around the world, or average ordinary Joes could get to experience things the same way as other people. I'm sure they still can have their own private courts somewhere. There's lots of places to do that. But what if they were just to take some of the property they had and open it up and let the average Joe use it? And let them enjoy the lifestyle that other people get to do because they have money. Because the fact is, at the end of the day, how much money do you need? How much money does anyone need? Because you can't take it when you die. And if you raise it 9 times out of 10, your kids get it. And a lot of times they end up spoiling it because they don't understand the value of money to begin with. Because we've gone away from the idea of teaching our children exactly what the value of hard work is. What does hard work do for you? Where does it take you in life? The value of how valuable money so you can make best use of it instead of squandering it. Many of us squander money because we don't have money skills. One of the things that doesn't get taught in schools, they keep talking about over and over again, is money skills. They teach things like home economics, but they don't teach home economics. What's the difference? Home economics is teaching you how to sew, bake, and that. Fine. That's part of the economics. They're doing how to shop and that. But they don't teach you how to manage money, how to manage your life, the value of what money is and why it's important to us to have it, and how to make the best use of it so that we can get the maximum enjoyment from it with a minimum amount of input, minimum amount of effort. Because ultimately, money can only be enjoyed if you have time to enjoy it. If you're spending most of your life just chasing after making it, when do you get time to enjoy having it? And I think that's where society's going on. The fact that we've gone to this point, we went from the 35-hour work week where there was one parent working and the other one wasn't, and the other one took care of the kids, that was their job, and then one of them went to work and made the money so that the other ones can enjoy their life. And then, of course, now it's that after a while was the wife would go to work part-time to make money to buy the extra boat, the extra thing, because we're chasing after the extras in life. And eventually now we got a society where both parents have to work out of necessity just to maintain the status quo. Why has it gone so wrong? Then we wonder why there's so much unemployment. We wonder why there's so much unhappiness. We wonder why there's so many suicides. Well, maybe just chasing after money and having to make more money is not really the answer, because look what the people that actually gain from it. The people that actually gain from a recession to make money is not the individual citizens, it's governments. Governments and taxation of income. The more taxpayers that pay taxes, the more money governments have to spend. Now, the thing is, we have to ask ourselves the very question, do these people understand whole economics? Or do these people understand economics, period? That if you spend $10 on something and get $6 worth of value of it, why did you spend that $10 if you're only getting $6 worth of value? Where did the other $4 of value go? What did we get for the extra $4? Why did we cost us $10 to begin with? Like I said, people. That's why a lot of politicians will say a housewife in her home knows more about budgeting and running a household than most politicians know about running a country, and that's rather true. I think in the world we need to start looking at the way we do everything, the way we structure work, the way we structure recreation, the way we talk about wealth, the way we talk about ownership of things, the respect for property, the respect for things, the respect for environment, and the respect for time. Spending a lot of money or spending a little bit of money on something that's poor quality, when you know you got to invest a lot of your time and effort replacing on a regular basis so that you can generate a bunch of work for people working at a low-scale job, being paid low money, using low-quality materials, is a short-sighted and very, very dangerous formula that only ingratiates the very wealthy at the expense of the poorest. It's a system that's not sustainable because eventually the poor people will vote, and they always have. Places like China, who think they've got the game going on, where they got the leaders thinking they can do everything they want to the people, are eventually going to find out that revolutions happen. What do you think the Chinese state came about in the first place? This Chinese state came about when people eventually got to a state where they got fed up with the government, or in this case the monarchy, in this case the Tsar, and decided to do something about it. The thing is, what the problem is, I don't think they realized what they were going to replace the modern state they had is something actually was going to be much worse, because the promise it had about socialism being the utopian that everyone thinks it is, or Marxism, is not ever going to happen because human beings are inherently greedy. Greed is a factor of human existence. It exists all the time. Capitalism is sort of the manifestation of us trying to manage the state of human greed in a more manageable form, but it's not a perfect system either. Socialism is not a perfect system. Capitalism is not a perfect system, which is why we got what's called, in most countries, democratic socialism. These are two forces that are diametrically opposed to each other. Socialism fights for the distribution of wealth to everyone, and capitalism fights for the rewarding of labor and effort to people as opposed to the ones that don't do anything. They're diametrically opposed to each other. But we attempt very, very hard to make both of them work. I realize I went on a whole rant about other things, but this is me. This is me unfiltered. I just come on here and talk about what I'm thinking. So to sum it up, basically, Canada is in a state of crisis right now because we have a devoid of leadership. We're being forced by a person that a lot of people consider a bully, and he is a bully. He's a bully because he has to be a bully. Bullies get things done. Passive people get nothing done. People will ignore passive people. The fact that the reason why he gets so much attention is because he's a bully. The reason why people hate him so much is because he's a bully. They hate bullies. And the thing is that bullies tend to get things done where people that are passive tend to get nothing done. They're the ones that get stepped on in life. And that doesn't just apply to politics, that applies to life too. The passive people say, oh, be peaceful, I mean, everything's going to be okay. But the problem is, you can't be peaceful always because you have to sometimes learn to defend yourself because the world is full of bullies. And the bullies are the ones that make things happen. The bullies are the ones that conquer nations. The bullies are the ones that move society forward. The passive people tend to hold society back. And it's nice to be compassionate, and it's great to be compassionate sometimes, and we need a little bit, even the bullies have to have some sort of compassion. But the same thing, to move things forward, the only way things go forward, you should have to push forward and stand up for what you believe in. So, Donald Trump doing what he is perfectly a reaction to the fact that the previous government administration was totally passive and let other countries that were more aggressive walk all over them, both internationally and politically. And hence why we have the situation in Canada now. We got a government that's very passive. And they think that everyone could go along to get along. And the problem is that's not the way the world works. Unfortunately, there's always going to be bullies. Xi Jinping is just as big a bully as Donald Trump. Even though he might seem like he's being a pacifist, he's not. He's a bully. He's a thug, he's a bully. But he's doing it in a way that he's got society so controlled that people are afraid to call him out on his bullies. I'd rather have a nation where people get the right to call out and cheer and jeer the bullies that we think are being bullies because we don't agree with them being bullies. They have a nation where you're not even allowed to criticize the bully. Think about that for a second. Would you rather have a country like China? Would you rather this be a country like China where you go, as much as you hate Donald Trump, what would you do if you're in a state where you're allowed to criticize him? That criticizing his being a bully would put you in jail for the rest of your life. You would just disappear. Think about that. Why would we want a system like that? As much as you might hate Trump, for who he is, there's a lot of things he do is good. Now, not all of that stuff is good. There's stuff that's always seen that's pandering to his base of people that not everybody agrees about. And ultimately, that's why we have politicians come in and out. We have a party going for a couple years terms, and then another party comes, because politics sways left and right as the mood of people changes left and right as people's opinions. And some people think that the right wing goes too far, so they go to the left, and some people think the left wing goes too far, they go to the right. And that's why you'll never have, until we have a system where we have a more centrist view of the world, where we can balance our compassion for those that are less fortunate with the ultimate goals of the nation state, which is to be prosperous and be able to have the ability to be compassionate. Maybe until we're able to get a perfect system to do that, we're going to always have this constant flow of going left and right. I think instead of worrying about the left and right about politics, like I say, we should worry about what happens in our own backyard. Worry about how you live your own personal life. Worry about your own personal contribution to the world, from how you contribute to your own personal well-being, how you contribute to your family, how you contribute to your community, how you contribute to your city, how much you contribute or are detrimental to your province, country, and world. Think about if we spent more time worrying about our own personal contributions, both positive and negative, to the world that we live in, and work on that, and spend more time focusing on that instead of worrying about the big geopolitical thing, all that, and learn to be better neighbors. Better neighbors have better fences. Then you don't need. You'll find eventually the fences don't have to be as high, because then neighbors are respectful of each other. When you start losing respect for your neighbors and abusing the hospitality of a neighbor, like what's happening in the immigration crisis in a lot of countries, where people with different ideologies are not respecting the fact that their neighbors' values are different from theirs, and that they walk into their neighborhood, they have to respect the fact that they can't live and do things the way they do them in their own neighborhood. It just doesn't done that way. When you start losing that, thinking you should turn their neighborhood into your neighborhood, and then everyone should be going along with you just like you think, just because you want to, it's disrespectful, because the fact is they didn't and tell you to come here and disrupt their neighborhood. They're not going to your neighborhood disrupting your neighborhood. What would happen if the fact of all the North Americans from Canada were to go to Palestine and start protesting in Palestine about making it more like Canada? Those people would lose their shit. Yet we're supposed to accept them doing it here. Why? Over a battle that's been fought for thousands of years, They'll never get resolved because it's basically like the Sneechers. It's basically like the northern bound and south going Zacks, where they get to a point where they bend each other, and then the fact that since neither one's willing to yield to be able to get 4-4 to go by east or east or west, just to get around it, and it's committed to this one direction, they're stuck. And this is what's happened to all the politics in most of the world, including the Middle East. It's stuck in this ideology of one side's right and one side's wrong, and one side has to capitulate totally to the other side, and the only way to get them to capitulate is their death. And since neither side wants to give up, the wars just continue. It's a pointless, worthless exercise. No sides, the only way to win, like they said in the movie that War Games, that the robot said when he was playing chess, the only way to win is not to play the game. And I believe that's the truth. If they were to focus all that effort and energy that they've out of the conflicts of this small tiny bit of land, or for maybe making this place a really great place for both people to coexist and learn to coexist, all that energy they waste in fighting each other to try and win this one unwinnable war, they put all energy into actually doing something productive, the world would be such a greater place. We waste a lot of energy in fighting each other instead of helping each other. Instead of learning to respect, care for, and love each other, and make this best better, all that wasted energy we put into just doing all these things that are harmful to each other, just to protect our own way of life, because we're so afraid that the other side's going to take over our way of life and we're going to end up having to give up. What if we didn't have to worry? What if we learned to respect each other and learn to live with each other in harmony and peace, and put all that negative energy into making this place the greatest and best home we all live on, because we all share it together. And if we did that, how great things would be. But it starts with you. It starts with your own personal feeling. It starts with your own personal neighborhood. And then it spreads and it grows. And we've got this great technology called the internet, where we can share ideas and thoughts and feelings and work out how to put this energy in more positive use, so we can have more productive, more meaningful lives where we can enjoy life more instead of just working just to chase the next buck. Money is important, yes, but the thing is it that important that the quality of our lives had diminished? When it gets to the point where you have to spend most of your lives just working just to survive, is it really a life worth living? Come on, think about it. Anyway, that's enough for me today. Like I say, I've been away for a while. I'm hoping to get on the line every Wednesday. I'm hoping to put together a podcast. Hopefully post it. I'm going to post this on YouTube. I'm also going to post this on Rumble Locals. And I'll also put a post on Facebook for you. You can follow me. Follow me on Facebook. If you want to comment, send me comments at info@endtimemedia.ca. That's me. That's my mailbox. You can send things in. I will more than happy try my best to get back to you with that. And if you want to leave comments on the video, I will attempt to get on here and check those comments out more. I have been following my videos. I'm sure there's people who've been commenting on videos for a while now. I've never got back to. I apologize to anyone to do that. I may have to call my own videos and find those comments and start responding to them if there's people out there. But if you have a person that has commented in the past about my videos, if you want to get direct engagement with me, if you haven't been engaging me right, the best way to engage me is at info.endtimemedia.ca. That's me. That's my address. That goes to my personal mailbox. And I'll do my letter best to just get those comments and get back to you with any questions. And maybe if you got some ideas for future videos that you think I should do, please respond to there too as well. I would be very much looking forward to your input as I hope to grow this channel and also grow my mandate in terms of things I want to do with this. Things I want to do. Oh, Jesus Christ, batteries on my remote are dying. What do you know? Technology dies out eventually. Anyway, this is Mike. And this is my two Loonies work for Wednesday, February 15th, I think it is. What day is it? No, it's February 5th. Sorry, 15th. Losing time already. It's February 5th, folks. Anyway, hope to be next Wednesday. And if I have anything special to say in the meantime, I'll put up a special report. But anytime, every Wednesday, I'm going to attempt to put a video up for you. I hope you enjoy this. Tell your friends about it. Like, comment, subscribe. Subscribe to my channel. I want to start building this channel right now. Obviously, the problem with YouTube is that I don't get any money for this. I don't monetize this channel because I'm under a certain limit. YouTube only lets you monetize channels once they get over a certain number. So tell your friends about me. If you have anything interesting to say to me, send me comments and let me know. I want to engagement. I would love to have maybe some new people come on and share some. Maybe we can talk on the channel through Skype or some other means and have a discussion with each other. And maybe there's some things you think I'm going wrong with, or any things I'm not really informed about. You need to inform me about that. I'm open to suggestions, ideas. I'm on a process of growth and growing, learning and growth myself, like we are. We're all on this journey together. Take care, folks. Talk to you soon. Bye for now.